It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, you do. From the Dixie Line Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, heading towards a great sports weekend, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton in studio, along with my co-host broadcasting his opinions from left field, the venerable John Riley. And we welcome you as we march towards a great sports weekend, coming off the National Football League draft, but diving into a lot of different stories and a lot of different topics on the table. Our podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego, regardless of what the project is, in home, at work, back patio, up by the pool. Dixie Line can give you all the supplies you want and can be your consultant, give you ideas. Go to dixieline.com for all your needs. John Riley, good afternoon. 1 month in the books in Major League Baseball, coming out of the National Football League draft. We got hoops, we got puck playoffs to talk about, and we're on the eve of the Run for the Roses, the Kentucky Derby. Busy weekend ahead of us.
Yeah, you cover it all, Hacksaw. We're going to talk horses, too.
Yeah, we're going a lot of different directions. Just a couple of notes. When we're done putting topics on the table, because on this podcast, we kind of make it like sports talk radio. We do it the way it should be done. Lots of hot topics. But when we're done, you get the chance to take over the podcast. It's called Fans Forum. John, for all the new people that are joining us on live stream, how does Fans Forum work?
Fans Forum is your chance to get involved in the talk show. You have a question or comment for Hacksaw, just get your take on the live stream on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. I already see Schickster and Darth and XX Revolution and William have already piled in, so join us in Fans Forum.
Fans Forum is one thing we do. I have a website. I write on it all the time, every day of the week. It's leehacksawhamilton.com. When we're done with the podcast, punch it up, check it out on the internet. You'll be amazed at the volume of information that's there. Also, on the homepage of the podcast, there's a big orange box on the homepage. It's called Hacksaw's Insiders Group. We invite you to sign up and join the Insiders Group. That'll get you on our special email list for unique things that we make available to all the Insiders Group people. You're on social media. I know you're on social media. I'm on social media. Can you bleep and believe that? I want you to join my Twitter All-Star group on X, and you can just follow me. Just join Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button every time I put something up on Twitter, on social media, on X, including the mini polls. You'll get the chance to participate. We want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Want you to subscribe on the YouTube channel. When you subscribe, that gives you the alerts every time we put new data and new videos up on the YouTube channel, and we do that a lot. Also, you can help us grow this thing even beyond where it is now. We're in our 3rd year of tolerating each other. My valid opinions, his from left field. But you can help us grow this thing by giving us a thumbs up, which helps us a great deal, or give us a 5-star rating, or do both. Likes, etc. really helps us a lot. That cover everything?
Yeah. Like, follow, share, and subscribe, man.
Okay, you got it all. Okay, we're going lots of different directions before we get to the Fans Forum segment, which is really popular, and we do urge you to become a first-timer. Jump on board, pile in. If you wish, pile on. John, we're in the second month of the baseball season. Let's just start with that.
Yeah, here we go. Padres maybe are back on the winning track.
Padres opening a road trip. If the Padres are going to make a statement and be in a pennant race, the month of May, which begins today, they need to blow people out. They need to dominate for the month of May, because once they get into June, the schedule radically changes. Let's talk about the Padres situation as they go on the road. Do you know in the month of May, they play 15 games against the have-nots in baseball, John?
Oh, right on.
They got 6 against the Pirates. They've got 3 against Colorado. They got 3 against the lowly Angels. They got 3 against Miami. They got 15 games, could win, should win, better win if they think they want to be in a pennant race once the calendar flips from Memorial Day into the month of June. Now, of course, they are playing some other people. They play the Yankees 3 on this road trip. They also got 3 with Atlanta coming up down road, and it's a different Atlanta team now than it was early in the season. But the Padres take a deep breath, knock on wood. The Padres are getting injured guys back healthy. Now you got ARAEZ back. Jackson Merrill could be back. Heyward is back. And then we'll see if sometime at the end of May to the 1st of June, if Darvish gets back. Team obviously played pretty well against San Francisco, banged them around a couple of times. Most intriguing thing, and I thought about this, and it's way too early for me to reach and say this, but I'm going to reach and say this. Through the first month of the season, it looks like we have an MVP candidate in right field in El Nino, Tatis.
Oh, yeah.
And it does kind of look, the way these guys have pitched the first month of the season, Cy Young Award type guys, Michael King and Pivetta, I mean, they have been dominant in virtually all their starts. So I'm pleased with where they are right now. This is the month to really make a move and position yourself to be in first place, because you're not going to play the rest of these dogs the rest of the season. You got 15 winnable games here against the bottom feeders in all in baseball. And John Riley says,
yeah, it's encouraging. I mean, I want to ask you this question about Luis Arraez, because, we've often debated the value of, he's a one-tool hitter, but he's really good at that one tool. But if you notice that when he was out, the team struggled. They put him back in, the team starts winning again. Is that coincidental? Or is it just, and one of my buddies, David Leland, talked about this, how the modus operandi of the Padres is just move the line, put
right
the
now,
ball in play. And you think Arraez kind of symbolizes that, right?
Another quality bat. Gets base hits, moves guys around, etc. I mean, you got to have other guys hit. There's no doubt about that. But if you got Tatis, Machado, and Arraez all producing, chances are you're going to score some runs along the way. Now, Tatis has hit home runs. Machado's long ball has not been part of the repertoire, at least the first month of the season. But Arraez is spraying stuff everywhere the way Luis Arraez does. I wish there was more from Bogaerts, but we don't see that right now. And, of course, there's been no Jackson Merrill, and this has been a long, extended time off with a hamstring. But Jackson Merrill, I think, will be back pretty doggone quickly, and then you hope there's no setback along the way. So it's been a successful first month of the season. And here, May 1st through May 31st, beat up these people, position yourself to be in a real dogfight for first place, not be 6 games back, because once you get to June 1st, you're going to start playing real people. As I think I told you, they play the Dodgers, the Giants, and Arizona in June 14 times in a 17-game span.
Oh, here we go. That's the gauntlet.
So here it is. Get it done right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's Padre baseball. Let's talk about the Dodgers. Dodgers, 10-game road trip here. Dodgers have won 5 in a row. Now, the Dodgers go play 3 at Atlanta starting Friday night. They got 3 in Miami. Then they come back. They got 4 with Arizona. They scored 34 runs against the Miami Marlins at home to wrap up their homestand. They're hitting. They're still wafer-thin pitching. Tony Gonsolin, 9 strikeouts, 6 innings in his first start in 2 years. That was impressive. Dustin May's kind of hit a little bit of a wall. He averages 4 quality innings, but he's had one bad inning each of the last couple of starts. So I just think they're holding their breath with him without trying to rush him along. And obviously Yamamoto has placed himself in the Cy Young conversation after the first month. I think he's 3-1 with an ERA of 1.03. Sasaki has yet to win his first game, but he's really pitched competitively as we've gone along. And in terms of Snell, there's no baseball-related activity going on. This is going to be an extended stay on the disabled list now that they've given him a plasma platelet injection in the shoulder. And in terms of Tyler Glasnow, they're doing deep thinking as to whether they're going to have to go back and just refit all of his mechanics, because a whole bunch of things evidently have gone wrong, which is why he injured the shoulder. So it's almost as if they're going back to square one to try to figure out what's the best way for him to throw the ball, because he thought he had figured out his mechanics early starts of the season, and now he's broken down. So they're really kind of alarmed at that. They've not given him an injection yet. They don't believe he needs an MRI exam yet, but he's on the disabled list, and this guy's got a tremendous history here. So what's your take on Dodger baseball?
I was looking at the scores in that Miami series, and yeah, the Dodgers hit the ball a ton, but they gave up a lot of runs. Now, were those runs like off of legit pitchers, or was those all off Kike Hernandez?
One was a bullpen day. One was Anthony Banda giving up a grand slam home run, which was really poor. But the bullpen day, they won the game 10-2. And they had Kike Hernandez out in the 9th inning, wearing a batting helmet, throwing the 9th inning in a 10-2, or was it 15-2 blowout win. It was really hilarious, but they gave up a bunch of runs there. But their pitching staff is a little bit thin right now. By the way, speaking of pitching, Kershaw, third rehab start, Oak City against El Paso, the Padres AAA team. He went 5, gave up 3 runs, gave up a home run, but he went 5, did not struggle, had velocity, etc. He's not close to being ready. Ohtani is continuing his bullpens, but he's not close to being ready. So Gonzo's the first one there. There's not a lot else at Oak City right now that seems to be ready to come up. They're talking about taking one of their long relievers, Ben Kasparius, putting him back into the rotation as kind of an insurance policy guy. So Dodgers might be in first place, but the Dodgers pitching staff, it's kind of wafer thin too.
Wafer thin. That's one of your great lines. I always think of Monty Python with the wafer thin comment, but the Padres are wafer thin with the pitching too.
Exactly. But their big three been pretty good.
Yeah, right on.
Okay, let's talk about the Angels. Hate to say the season's over, but damn, 99 losses last year was bad. Angels have lost 7 of their last 8, and they are not hitting at all. And now Mike Trout's hurt. Mike Trout injured a knee, thundering down the first baseline yesterday afternoon. They think it's scar tissue that he might have aggravated. They don't think it's a knee injury. They were not going to do an MRI, at least as of Thursday noontime. They had not yet decided on that. But he's hitting in the 170s. Their team batting average is .211.
Oh, God.
Nobody's hitting in Anaheim. Team earned run average, and we had thought that Kikuchi and Kyle Hendricks can make a difference. Team ERA is at 4.78. So this looks like just the beginning of what's going to be something terrible a long summer, because some of the guys that they rented just aren't hitting, and the 2 frontline veteran pitchers have kind of been banged around each of the last 2 or 3 starts. So boy, this looks like a real tough summer.
The Angels got off to a decent start, though, it seemed, and then all of a sudden hit the skids. Is it the competition's changed, or have they had, guys that have, gotten injured or haven't been playing?
They don't have any major injuries to speak of. They're just not hitting a .211 team batting average. Just not good at all. So that's all things baseball. You want to talk Padres, Dodgers, Angels, fans forum, chat box is open. When we do on this podcast, we do put the hot topics on the table. So if there's something there that piques your interest, one of these topics, jump into the fans forum chat box and talk about that. I do know we have a history of people want to comment on the last podcast or something that's been out there in the ozone for a while. That's okay. But if there's something that you want to yak at right now about what I said, what he said, Padres, Angels, Dodgers, feel free, jump on board. That's all things baseball. Second topic on the table is?
This is good. I can't wait for the breakdown of Bill Belichick and his girlfriend.
Oh, this is just an amazing story. So Belichick leaves New England, doesn't coach, does media last year. Some of it was kind of fun to be around and watch. And then takes a North Carolina job out of the clear blue sky. And then suddenly the 73-year-old Belichick winds up in this relationship with a 24-year-old woman. So Belichick's at North Carolina, and John and I have talked a little bit about this whole storyline, that they're in spring football, and here's the hoodie walking the sidelines, and here's the babe, Jordan Hudson, strolling behind him in hot pants, leather boots, big-time distraction. So anyhow, Belichick in the last half year decided he's going to write a book about his history in football, what he's done in 35 years, where he came from, how he became what he became, who influenced him, and all that. They set up a deal to do an interview with CBS TV. They sit down to do a 35-minute interview that ran on CBS Sunday Morning last weekend. And it just was not about what was in the book. It was about a whole series of other questions. And the longer the interview went, the more uncomfortable the interview became, because Belichick, who, by the way, looked like a bum, like Freddie fraternity guy with a torn hoodie, Belichick just starting to get standoffish, just like his press conferences, just not wanting to answer. And then Jordan Hudson, the babe, sitting off on the sidelines, who's his CEO of Belichick Media, she starts interjecting herself when the CBS reporter asks certain questions. We're not talking about that. He doesn't have to answer that question. This interview is supposed to be about football. So anyhow, the CBS reporter said, Bill, nowhere in the book, 185 pages in the book, is any reference made to Robert Kraft and New England. Why would that be? Well, I don't work there anymore. Yeah, but that was a long, successful run. Well, we parted mutually. Well, no, you were fired, according to Robert Kraft. So anyhow, so then they get antsy about that. And then the CBS guy is kind of distracted because she keeps interjecting herself into the questions 8 times, I was told. 8 times in 35 minutes, she interjected about, we're not talking about that. So he turns to her and the camera shoots her sitting off on the sidelines trying to direct traffic. It was just absolutely hilarious. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? So at the end of the day, this is what dawned on me. Here's the hoodie over the course of his entire career. And I dealt with him with the Patriots, and I dealt with him when he was in Cleveland as a voice of the Chargers, a voice of the Seahawks. I like interacting with him because I didn't have to deal with him every day. Here's the hoodie who's controlled the narrative of everything in his life.
Yes.
Forever. He can't control this now because he doesn't have the power of the NFL. And now the media is up in arms and saying his babe is not going to interject herself and interfere with us doing our job. He came off as condescending. The whole thing was awkward. I think it's self-destructive for Belichick to act this way. You know, they said Belichick put out 2 press releases through the University of North Carolina and his CEO. We had an agreement. We're going to talk football. CBS came back yesterday and said, hell no, there was no agreement. We're going to talk about everything we want to talk about. And then he bitched about the fact, well, they edited it all down. Well, of course they edit everything down. They're not going to give you 35 minutes to publicize your book. It was an 8-minute segment. I thought it was kind of flawed. I didn't like there was no flow to it at all. He was not interactive with the reporter. It could have been a lot better because I've interviewed Belichick maybe 5 times, and I found him interesting to talk to as long as I wasn't trying to ask him about Tom Brady or stuff in the New England locker room. But other stuff, he'd open up. And so anyhow, I just thought the whole thing turned out to be bombastic. And I think he's doing a disservice to himself. You make yourself available, be the guy. Make yourself available, answer all the questions instead of allowing her to interject herself. And so I thought it was an unbelievable fiasco. And it's not going to get any better because he's taken a lot of heat in North Carolina about 73-year-old man with a 24-year-old woman. You're kidding me. And you're supposed to act like everything's fine and this is natural. At the end of the day, she a control freak? At the end of the day, why has he entrusted his whole credibility career in the hands of a 24-year-old? And John, argue with me that she's just not a gold digger. Okay, there we are. Those are my topics on the table. That's my read of the whole thing. He controlled it once upon a time. Now he can't control it, and he's got her controlling it, which is really, to me, is a bad look. John?
Well, she could be a student at UNC. I mean, she's that's young.
Supposedly.
Imagine if you had a 24-year-old hottie following you around in hot pants and white leather boots. I could just picture it. This whole thing is just sheer comedy. I mean, because the hoodie is such a
persona.
A persona, a curmudgeon, and did you see, like you said, he was dressed like a fraternity slob. He was it an army sweatshirt? But
Navy.
Navy,
He
pardon
had
me.
holes in it, and
Yeah,
then it's
and it
kind of
looked like he had like spilt food on his sweatshirt and everything.
John Belushi at his best.
Yes, exactly. You know, it was Mr. 0.0 GPA. So it's the whole thing is just so out of character for Bill Belichick. You know, the way that he would give these one-word answers and never smile in a press conference, and now all of a sudden he's got something to smile about. But it is, I mean, she's like Yoko Ono, you know, she's like manipulating and kind of disrupting the energy, but he's smiling now and he's liking it. So on one level, I'm like happy for Bill, but on the other level, this whole thing is just looks strange to the outside world. And by the way, I did see in one of the clips I saw, they showed her, what's her name? Jordan? Yeah. And so she was sitting at a table with one of the producers and chiming in, oh, we didn't agree to talk about that. But when you have like 8 interruptions over a 30-something minute interview, I mean, it's going to be hard to find like an 8-minute segment that they can use.
Well, everything was edited together, individual questions, but some of them were just cream puffs that didn't have any merit to being on the broadcast because it was slotted to be 8 minutes.
This whole thing. I mean, imagine like if you're the UNC president, this is not a good look for your university. I mean, imagine if the UNC president was running around with a 24-year-old hottie. That wouldn't be a good thing.
You think?
No.
Well, he has to answer to the board of trustees.
Yeah.
Belichick answers unto himself and to the boosters.
Well, pretty much. You know, that's not going down like that. But this whole thing is just comedy. It's like I made a reference earlier that it seemed like when he was going to these ball games and she was coming with him to the stadiums, it was like he was walking his dog, you know, this spectacle, you know, with all the bling, you know, that just sort of follows him around. It's so weird that you can't help but talk about it.
I'd lean forward and say, Jordan, do you want to go to the car and get his blue pill?
Yeah,
jeez.
That's exactly what this is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
was he married?
Yeah, he was and he got divorced a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago.
And there's a sidebar story that just broke about an hour before I came over here to do the podcast. His son, Steve Belichick, is his defensive coordinator. Used to be with him at New England, went to the University of Washington as coordinator, left Washington, just joined. Steve Belichick's wife, the daughter-in-law, just ripped the hell out of the hoodie and the babe for the way they conducted their business on TV. Soap opera.
She's probably like going, oh man, when the will has to be executed, this hottie's going to get all of Belichick's assets.
Oh, so you're subscribing to my question about Gold Digger?
Well, yeah, definitely there's some of that, but you know, there is opportunity for her. I mean, if she's, you know, the CEO of Belichick Media, which I didn't know such a thing existed, there's a little bit of a win-win going on here. But yeah, I mean, Bill needs to keep her at arm's length. Don't marry her.
Okay, plain and simple. Fans forum chat box is open. Let's talk about the topic of the day. Let's talk about the hoodie versus CBS. Feel free to jump on board. Did you see any of it? You want to react to what I said, what the guy from left field had to say? He could identify with a guy wearing a torn sweatshirt. That's what he did at UCSD all the time. I saw pictures in his yearbook.
The first time that I met you in person, you were wearing like a ratty, like Yankee sweatshirt.
Still have it. Would have worn it today. Okay, fans forum chat box is open. I can't wait to hear somebody talk about Belichick and the whole TV interview thing and Belichick and the babe. Jump on board. Next topic on the table. This relates to the NFL.
Yeah, NFL after the draft stories. What do you got?
Let's talk about the situation in a couple different places around the National Football League, and we'll start with Cleveland. He's there. SHEDEUR Sanders has arrived in Cleveland, waiting for the OTAs to begin, obviously meeting with the coaching staff. He's doing some charity stuff at some of the inner city schools in Cleveland in this time. First press conference, first words out of his mouth, I did not expect this. Now, I'm not sure whether he was making reference to, I didn't expect to be in Cleveland, or I didn't expect to be a 5th-round draft pick. So it's just fascinating. And I shared with John, somebody edited something together on YouTube and put it out there in the solar system. SHEDEUR Sanders' first press conference with him mumbling about the fact I decline this draft pick. I'm not going to play in Cleveland. I don't want to be here. There's nothing in Cleveland for me.
That was a deep fake.
Yeah, deep fake.
Yeah.
I saw that and I said, oh, that's really kind of funny. Got to be very careful what you view sometimes on YouTube and what you believe, what you don't believe. Here's the other interesting quote, because somebody on a hot mic picked this up. You know, the aftermath of the Browns drafting Dillon Gabriel in the 5th round early, and then coming back and stunning the world by taking SHEDEUR SANDERS later in the 5th round, and the fact that both the general manager, Andrew Berry, and Kevin Stefanski didn't really smile when the cameras were on them after the pick was made. A lot of people reading between the lines, and now that somebody had a hot mic and the comment was made, we didn't expect to take 2 quarterbacks in this draft, which means Jim Haslam called down and said, you're taking Sanders at the back end of the 5th round. So this is going to be really interesting to see where this goes. I don't know how Stefanski divots up snaps in the OTA. He's got 4 active quarterbacks. And he's trying to teach them all. Flacco's been there, obviously, but he's got Flacco, and then he's got Kenny Pickett, the refugee from Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Then he's got the Oregon quarterback and the Colorado quarterback. How do you got to ferret out enough snaps to give these guys an opportunity to build rhythm, etc.? So that's Cleveland Browns story. That one really bears watching. Atlanta. Burner phones. They were supposed to be secluded phone numbers and all that. And SHEDEUR SANDERS and a number of other players got prank calls. Well, they obviously found out. The defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, Jeff Wilbur, was given information, it was on his laptop, about the secure phone numbers for whole number draft picks, including SHEDEUR SANDERS. His son was visiting, saw the number, jotted it down, went home and said, I'm going to pull a prank on this guy. Called and masqueraded himself that I'm such and such from the New Orleans Saints. We're about to draft you. And that wasn't true. Anyhow, the NFL did the investigation through the burner phones and found out the call came from Wilber's house. $350,000 in fines to the Falcons and to the defensive coordinator. I am a bit surprised that Jeff Wilbur was not fired, that the NFL didn't order Atlanta to fire him. But why would you leave unsecured information on your laptop or for somebody to see, including his own kid? So that's quite a story there in Atlanta. Philadelphia. Do you want me to go with this topic? Eagles went to the White House. Not all of them, though.
Right. Okay,
Eagles went to the White House. Jalen Hurts did not go to the White House for the second time. 36 Eagle players did not go to the White House, including virtually the entire defense. So the guys that went there had a nice time with the president of the United States, took pictures, et cetera, et cetera. But 36 guys, including the quarterback, did not go, and they're not apologizing for why they did not go. The other story is a really sad story, involves the Denver Broncos and the legendary quarterback John Elway. His longtime player agent, marketing director, was with him on a golf cart in La Quinta on Sunday, and the player agent, Jeff Sperbeck, fell off the golf cart, cracked his head, catastrophic brain injury, died 2.5 days later. Oh. At this point, it seems like it was just a pure accident. It does not appear that Elway was speeding. He wasn't running over greens and stuff. They don't know if alcohol was involved, but Sperbeck he represented over 120 NFL players, including Elway. Just a really, really sad story there. So, John, you got all those other things from my notebook. Go ahead. Talk about SHEDEUR, talk about burner phones in Atlanta, talk about the Eagles in the White House. Go ahead.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. I don't know how all those quarterbacks are going to work in Denver. I mean, in Cleveland. Yeah. So they'd have to let at least one of these guys go. I mean, it seems like Kenny Pickett getting released is such an obvious move, isn't it?
They just got him. It doesn't make any sense. You know, I had a guy who covers the Browns told me yesterday he's of the opinion that one of these rookie quarterbacks is going to play this year. I said, how's that possible? These guys, they're not going to be a starting quarterback in Cleveland as raw rookies. If they were, they're 5th-round draft picks. So, it's either going to be Flacco and Pickett with one of the other rookies as probably on the developmental squad. But the burning question is, you don't have enough time to install everything you want to install in your OTAs and in training camp, and then give the kids the bulk of the snaps because you're trying to get ready for the season with another new quarterback in Pickett. Flacco's different because he's been through this 1,000 times, and he played in Cleveland prior. So I just know there's enough hours in the day, enough snaps in the day to be able to actually implicate 2 fifth-round draft pick quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think Flacco's the kind of veteran you sort of plug him in and you'll carry the load for, maybe a half a season. But the Cleveland Browns aren't going to be competitive for the playoffs, right?
They got a great defense.
No, but still, there's just no way. So I can imagine, especially the fans too. They're going to be clamoring to see their new young quarterback, especially if it's SHEDEUR. So I agree. One of those young quarterbacks is going to play. The question is maybe Dillon Gabriel or SHEDEUR Sanders going to get traded? Is Pickett going to get released, or are they going to give up on Flacco? To me, it makes sense that you would have Flacco as your initial starter, either Gabriel or Sanders as your number 2, and then who knows as number 3.
Yeah, but then number 3, if it's Pickett, because he's a veteran, could make a significant amount of money.
Well, good reason there not to use him.
But then why did you go get him to begin with?
Well, because you didn't think that they were going to draft SHEDEUR. The owner screwed everything up.
Oh, that's the owner.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all things NFL football. Feel free, jump on board. Nah, you don't have time to jump on board there. Everybody's jumping on board, talk about Belichick and the babe. That's what we want to talk about. One last football note, college football.
The Aztecs, yeah. NFL draft transfers and quarterbacks.
Yeah, let's just talk about San Diego State football for just a minute. They're going through a real rough time right now. The story that we had a week ago about the fact that they've lost 2/3 of their season ticket holders, it just is absolutely shocking to me. And then they didn't hold a spring football contest. It became a fraternity row beer Olympics, which I thought was absurd. And now they just lost the top freshman recruit they had who had committed early. Kid from Ventura County by the name of Derek Garcia has backed away, has decommitted, is going to reopen, go somewhere else. Big 6'4" quarterback. He was one of the first early commits for 2026 that Sean Lewis got. Just a big setback. Why? Well, you got a freshman quarterback in the door already from Long Beach. You got a transfer from Michigan. It looks like he has probably won the starting job. And you got the third quarterback who came from Central Michigan. Why would I go to San Diego State? So just another punch in the gut for Sean Lewis. They got 11 guys have jumped into the spring transfer portal from San Diego State since spring football, and 11. Like 6 from last year's recruiting class. He's having a tough time holding on to players. He has picked up some Division I transfers from one from the University of Washington, a young lineman who's not played. He picked up a defensive lineman from the University of Charlotte, big kid who's kind of coming home. He's picked up a few, but it's just new people, new names. Who, some cases, one kid has not played for 2 years. He had been at Syracuse. He was an offensive tackle. But this process has taken forever. Hats off, though, to a couple of Aztecs. Tight end Mark Redmond, who had come here in the Brady Hoke era.
Oh, yeah.
University of Washington. And I thought played pretty well and then bounced out of here and went to Louisville for 1 year. Mark Redmond just signed a free agent contract with the Rams. Hey. So he's coming in and he'll fight for backup job or maybe wind up on the developmental squad. And a really good kid, big offensive lineman. Brendan Dixon was a big tackle, played left tackle, right tackle under Hoke, played really well. He transferred out and the portal went to Tennessee. He has just signed, he went to Florida. He has just signed with the Tennessee Titans. He's got a legitimate chance to make the club. He was an undrafted free agent. So a couple of kids that were here at the tail end of the Hoke era wind up getting NFL contracts post-draft. So that's where we are. Thoughts on the Aztecs?
I'm thinking about the people or the players that went into the portal in the spring, because it seems they would be in 2 categories. Category 1 are the really good players that are saying, oh, this isn't looking very good here.
Cam Davis, running back, was one of them.
Yeah, and they probably have an offer still on the table to go somewhere else. But there's also players that they get to spring camp and they can sort of see the writing on the wall.
Or they're not willing to work through it.
Yeah, so they're like 4th or 5th on the depth chart. They're not going to get any playing time. So I may as well just transfer and go somewhere else.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of the guys that jumped into the portal from the end of last season haven't signed anywhere yet.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't have it means you don't have a job, you don't have a scholarship, you may not be playing football.
Well, that's a common thing, I think, with the transfer portals. A lot of the guys, they either don't play at all or they take a pretty big step down.
Yeah. So that's where we are, all things San Diego State. Long process here for Sean Lewis. I keep wanting him to make progress, but geez, you keep losing players and you keep interchanging. New guys have to come in. It's going to take forever. Hey, we get to halftime. Our podcast off and running, brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. You got projects, they've got materials. You want ideas, these people can help you. John Riley introduced me to Dixie Line. You know my story about windows and doors, and it's just been phenomenal for my house. John wants me now to get bookcases for my man cave, etc. John can tell you about the rest of the new unique things that Dixie Line offers, because they are really full service.
Yeah, power tools. I mean, they got power tools up the yin yang here on this video. We're seeing Bosch and DeWalt and all these other categories of power tools. So if you're a do-it-yourself homeowner that likes to do some construction and building in your workshop, in your garage, they're terrific. But they really do a great job catering to the professional, the builder, the contractor. So if you need lumber, building materials, power tools, they've got it. But if you're a homeowner that really wants to remodel your bathroom, your kitchen, do your doors and windows, decking, they can help you too.
Don't you talk to my wife. I mean, you're going to be doing bookcases. Next is going to be the whole kitchen.
Yeah, you're going to get an island in the kitchen. Imagine all the high-end accessories you can get in your kitchen, Axel.
On my credit card.
Yeah, maybe you can get one of those televisions built into the refrigerator so you can watch football.
DixieLine.com. Check it out. See all the things they've got to offer. You might not be thinking project now. 3 weeks from today, wifey might say project. Think Dixie Line Lumber. We are at halftime. When we're done with topics on the table, because we do sports talk the way it should be done, we open it up to you. And again, for everybody who's new on this live stream, on this podcast, John, explain how Fans Forum works.
Okay, a lot of guys are already jumping on board here. So if you have a question or comment for this guy right here, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton.
Blame it on me.
Yeah, you can just type it in on Facebook, on X, or on YouTube. And a bunch of new guys are jumping in already. I see Greg and Angel and Hector piling in to join. William and who's that other guy? Son of Dork is in the list. John and Eric and William and Darth and Pedro and Callan and XX Revolution and Schickster. We got a lot of people involved, so you can get involved too. Love to see some first timers in Fans Forum.
Fans Forum chat box open for business. Pick one of the hot topics we're talking about today and jump in with an opinion. It's kind of like sports talk radio. This is what has happened. This is what I think. Tell us what you think. Fans Forum chat box is open. Couple of other items. When we're done with this podcast, please go check my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. It's all written. You won't believe the volume of information that's there. Want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders group? You can do that. There's an orange box right on the homepage of the website. Fill it out. You get on the email list. We email twice a day to the sports fans who are part of the Insiders group. Want you to follow me on social media, jump up and down, become part of my Twitter all-star team. Just type in @Hacksaw1090, hit the follow button. Want you to share. Want you to tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, then you get the alerts every time we put videos up, and we do that multiple times during the course of the week in addition to the podcast. So we're all over the place.
Yeah, I have a question about your Twitter all-star team. So you run these polls on X all the time that I see them. Share with me an example of a poll that you ran that really surprised you.
Oh, my goodness. It's really intriguing. I don't want to say I'm looking to hit the fans hot button, but this is a big story today. I want to know what you've got to say. Like, I ran one on the Lakers, the aftermath of what just happened in the playoffs, eliminated, run out of the playoffs, etc. And the question was, who do you blame? Do you blame the owner? What genie bus is allowed to happen here? Do you blame the general manager for all the player deals? Do you blame the coach who's only been on the job less than a year? Or do you blame the stars? I can't tell you how shocking the hate LeBron group that's out there.
Oh yeah.
Like it's all his fault. I mean, just absolutely amazing. And yet I see a 40-year-old man killing it trying to will them to victories. So those are some of the surprise things. Sometimes I get phenomenal response, and sometimes I don't hardly get any. I've had many polls where I've gotten, I don't know, 300-400 responses. I've had many polls where I've gotten 50. And I said, how's that possible? This is a pretty big story here. With the exception when I posed a political mini poll question and whoa, they just short-circuited the entire computer system.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's great that you do that and you keep your fans engaged, and it's all part of your insiders group, really.
Okay. We move to the second half. Here we go. You ready for this one?
Yeah, the Lakers and the Clippers, and the Lakers are done.
I hate to do this. I told you so. Damn, I told you so at the trade deadline. I told you so. When they made the blockbuster Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis transaction, I thought it was phenomenal. Two great players. No argument, no debate there. Granted, injuries have been an issue with AD. Granted, conditioning and lifestyle have been an issue with Luka, but two great players. But there wasn't enough in the deal. Obviously, in Dallas, they hate this general manager that you did not get enough. You got a number one, and you got Anthony Davis, and he promptly got hurt, and we lost Kyrie Irving after that. Life is over in Dallas. So they're killing Nico Harrison. But I posed the question in the aftermath of this trade, who is going to play in the paint for the Lakers? Who's going to protect the rim? Who's going to rebound? Who's going to do the dirty work? And what was the end result as Minnesota beat them 4-5 and just kicked their ass in some of the games? Lakers they could not hang with Minnesota. Sledgehammer victories. 4 wins in 5 games. Minnesota goes on. The Lakers go home. Outshot them, outmuscled them, outcoached them, out-leaded them. Could you have ever imagined, if I would have told you a week ago that Rudy Gobert, one of the weakest big men I think I've seen in the NBA, would go off for 27 points and 24 rebounds? And that was a difference in the game. The end result was the Lakers had to go to a small lineup because they had nobody in the paint to play. And Minnesota said, you can go small? No problem. We're going to dump that ball inside all night. And Rudy went for 27 and 24 against the Lakers small guys, and the Lakers had no answers for him at all. Foul trouble? Yeah, we're in foul trouble. You know, Minnesota walks down the hallway to go on the floor, and they got a wheelbarrow full of fouls. And they use them all.
Yeah.
They don't care. They'll take 25 fouls on the game, put you at the free throw line. We're going to screw up your rhythm. And they did. Foul trouble? No problem. Because we're so big, we're going to take 20 more shots than you last night. And they did. And then you got J.J. Redick, coach, smart guy. Got really pissy with the media before the game in a press conference about his rotation or lack of rotation. He went small ball. He benched Jackson Hayes, his only legitimate big. He never got off the bench, sat him and told everybody he's not playing tonight. How is that humanly possible? He played Maxi Kleber, who came in the Dallas trade, has been out 45 games with surgeries and injury. He played him for 5 minutes, and that was a freaking disaster. There was no Dalton Connect sighting that I know of, the number 1 draft pick. Gabe Vincent hardly got off the bench at all when they needed somebody to help LeBron and Luka score. And Gabe Vincent can hit threes. He was nowhere to be found. End of the day, there's always stories behind the stories, which is like, I like researching for this, for the podcast. The scoreboard does not lie. Minnesota had 56 rebounds in the game last night, John. They had 54 points in the paint.
That's unbelievable.
No, it's not. This is the unbelievable stat. In and around the basket, down on the block, on the baseline, paint, Minnesota was 20 of 22 shooting close in.
Oh, no opposition.
Exactly. And Minnesota did all this while going 7 for 47 clank on threes. I've never seen a team miss 43-point shots in a game and win, but Minnesota did. Lakers, by the way, lived and died this year on the three. Got 29% from the arc in the game last night. And in the fourth quarter of the 4 losses to Minnesota, where they died on the floor, because they weren't playing very many people. Lakers averaged only 17 points in each fourth quarter of the 4 losses they had. And that's with a team that's got LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves. So the scoreboard does not lie. The Lakers are 1-18 in games when they're facing a 3-1 deficit in the playoffs. 1-18. Lakers are 2-12 in the playoffs over the last 3 years. And here's a stat that staggered me this morning. Since the trade, when LeBron and Luka play together, they're only 16-10 on the season in LA. And Lakers have 1 championship in 9 seasons with LeBron. 1. And that was the COVID short season.
Yeah, asterisk.
So, yeah, exactly. So just terrible. Anyhow, they held the exit press conference this morning. Rob Pelinka, the Laker general manager, said, "We have incredible promise from the big 3," talking about Luka, LeBron, and AR. He says, "I have a level of confidence in JJ Redick that could not be higher, despite what just happened. I will do a better job of putting pieces around the big 3." Well, you've had multiple years to do that. And he said, "We do have a significant issue with this roster. We will add size at center." You think? And he really made a strange comment at the close out the press conference, because I watched it. He said, "Western Conference is tough. You make a seismic trade in midseason like we did with Dallas, it's like trying to build a plane while it's in the sky." So Lakers, I'm sorry, Lakers equal mediocrity. That's what they've become, despite the marquee names and neon lights that are on the roster. I threw a lot of stats at you. You sat there, you watched it. Reaction.
The stat that blew me away was the one about the rebounds and the points in the paint, that the Bucks had.
In 20 of 22 in shooting close.
It's just insane, And so, you've been harping about this. The Lakers don't have anybody to play, down low, to play defense, to, clean up on the boards. And it just makes me wonder if, the coach of the Bucks was tuning into this podcast, getting some tips from you. But, the interesting post, I saw someone put this on Twitter earlier today, talking about how LeBron is a disappointment, and how it's another, losing series here in the playoffs. But Michael Jordan won 26 of his last 27 playoff series. I mean, that is a mark of a champion. And LeBron, as great as he is, ain't nowhere close to Michael Jordan.
Can't carry him.
No.
Exactly. Now, MJ was surrounded by a hell of a lot of good players. Be that Billy Cartwright or Scottie Pippen or they had a pretty good basketball team.
Oh, yeah.
Tony Kukoc and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You see any of that on the Laker roster?
Like you say, beyond the big 3, and really it's 2.5. I mean, Austin Reeves is good, but he's not as good as Luka, or LeBron. So I don't know. It seems like the Pelinka, he had that one season where he made some good deals at the trade deadline.
And they broke it up the next offseason.
Yeah, so he's like up and down. And by the way, Pelinka looks like Rob Lowe, don't you think?
Yes, exactly.
He looks exactly like him. So the Lakers are done. I'm like, okay, we can stop talking about the LeBron and the up and down with the Lakers. I'm okay with that.
Hey, Fans Forum chat box is open. Do not shoot an air ball. I want you to drill a 3 and express an opinion, the aftermath of the demise of the Lakers. Meanwhile, other team in the building, the Clippers, got to win tonight, otherwise it's over. And they've kind of run into a tough situation in Denver. Item 1, they've not been able to control the Joker. Jokic has put up some big triple-double games against them. Jamal Murray went off for 43 the other night, which is unbelievable. They don't have a lot of depth. Denver's playing really well, but the Clippers obviously let them back in the series. Clippers had a 15-point lead in Denver on game 1 and lost. And I kept saying, I don't know if you can duplicate that a second time in Denver. Well, they didn't, and now they got to go back in there and try to stay alive here. I think the biggest disappointment to me, Kawhi has done everything Kawhi can do, and the supporting cast, I think, has got some talent led by Zubac. I'm really disappointed in James Harden. Has James Harden won bleep in the course of his career? The other night he was 3 for 12, and they desperately need him. And the offense stalls. He stands out there bouncing the basketball, the clock runs down, and either takes a bad shot or can't distribute the ball. So I'm just disappointed in Harden. I think Clippers are in trouble. God, what a terrible 48 hours as we have the Lakers season end, the Clippers season end. And last week, you and I were talking about, wouldn't it be fun if the Clippers played the Lakers in the second round of the playoffs? Ooh, not now.
No, I mean, just imagine, though, if that buzzer beater, that, what was it, when Jokic heaved it, and who was the guy that slam dunked it?
Aaron Gordon.
Aaron Gordon, that's right. If that had gone the other way, I mean, this would be a whole different dynamic. So it sucks. And you're right. Like James Harden, wherever he goes,
same result.
Yeah, he's like Pigpen in the Peanuts cartoons, where he's just kicking up a lot of dirt and stuff. Because remember when he was with was it with Brooklyn, I think it was, and or was it, no, it was with the 76ers, and he got into the scrum with the ownership there. He wanted to come out and he eventually came to LA, and was just all the drama. And we would talk about his history with Brooklyn and Houston and OKC, but yeah, has he ever won a championship?
No, not that I can think of. No.
And
statistically, he's had phenomenal seasons. He has some unbelievable games, but he disappears in the month of March. Postseason, disappears.
He's like another cartoon character, James Harden, with the beard and everything else that goes along with that guy.
Pigpen.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we got all that to talk about. Feel free, Lakers, Clippers, jump on board. Couple of other items from the NBA notebook here, John.
Yeah, here's bring it up. Start with the Milwaukee Bucks. Trouble on the court.
Yeah, this is really sad. Damian Lillard's had a really good career. He's a gamer. He's quite a team guy. He's a firebrand. He ruptures his Achilles tendon, and he's 36 years of age. He says, I'm not going to go out this way. I will be back. But they're talking the injury was so severe, the Dame is not going to play next season. So he'll probably be 37 going on 38, attempting to come back from this ruptured Achilles. It's too bad because he was a cornerstone of everything with the Portland Trail Blazers, and he stayed there and signed a contract extension, and eventually they elected to trade him. Things were just not working out well. Second item in the equation, talking about the Indiana Pacers Milwaukee Bucks playoff series. This has to do with what happened at the end of the game. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a phenomenal player. I think he's a hell of a citizen. He's really an ambassador for the game. He got accosted. He got confronted on the court as the two teams were shaking hands by the father of Tyrese Halliburton, the Indiana Pacers star guard. John Halliburton was sitting on the front row and just bagging on Giannis through the whole course of the game. And then he confronted him as Giannis was trying to shake the hands of other Indiana players, and they exchanged words, and then finally security had to go in there. What right does that old man have the right to go on the floor and create an incident with the star on the other team? I mean, it's bad enough we got drunk fans doing stuff, but a player's father, Tyrese Halliburton, apologized to Giannis this morning, saying his father should have never done that. But the father went on TV, so I got every right to root for my son. Well, not like that. I mean, I'm surprised it frustrating. Milwaukee fell apart because of injuries, substandard season. If it had been anybody else, the guy might have popped Halliburton's father in the face right in front of everybody. I mean, it was just a terrible, terrible story. Miami. What an unbelievably god-awful finish to their season. Thank you, Jimmy Butler. This is the end result of what Jimmy Butler did to the Miami Heat, getting suspended 3 times, demanding to be traded. Pat Riley saying, you're out of here, etc. So they lose one playoff game to Cleveland by 37, which is an all-time record loss in the playoffs. The last game they played against Cleveland, they lost by 55.
Whoa.
I've never seen a scoreboard like that. I thought, when I looked at my laptop, I said, no, that can't be right. It was like 43-14 at one point early. At one point in the game, John, they were down by 63 points, 63 to the Cavaliers at home. This was in Miami.
Oh, man.
And Eric Spoelstra, in his exit press conference, said this will never, ever happen again. Well, unless you get better players in there, it probably will happen again. But what a disaster this whole Miami situation is. WNBA. Interesting story. They're about ready to kick off their season, coming off last year's great season, TV ratings, Caitlin Clark and all that. They're ready to kick off their season. There are more than 100 top players in the WNBA who can be free agents at the end of this winter. All their marquee players are free agents that are trying to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement. And by the way, there's still a lot of grudge stuff going on involving Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever. They just printed T-shirts, Indiana Fever logo, and it says, every game is a home game.
Yeah, I saw
just because of their popularity traveling around the league. So that's fascinating. A couple of college basketball notes. This whole situation at USC, they don't know whether he's going to be able to play basketball immediately. We're talking about Gilbert Arenas' son. Elijah Arenas was involved in a horrific auto accident at 5 a.m. on the last week on the morning. And he's lucky he's alive. He got trapped in a Tesla SUV that caught on fire, crushed the vehicle, wrapped it around a tree and a fire hydrant, had to be rescued. Two men who happened to be on their way to work stopped and broke the windows and got him out of the vehicle. He was on life support. He was in a coma. He's out. He's in stable condition right now, but he's going to go through a lot of rehab. It's going to be a long time. And Sacramento State, these guys are trying to go Division I. They just picked up a couple of transfers. Shaquille O'Neal's son, Shakur, 6'7" forward, Florida A&M, is going to transfer in. He's going to play for Mike Bibby, who's the new basketball coach at Sac State. Okay. And they also picked up Mikey Williams, the controversial guard from here, San Ysidro, tried to go to Memphis State, got involved in a felony gun incident, wound up pleading guilty. They said at Memphis State, we're not admitting you. He went to Central Florida, played half a season there. Now he's gone to Sacramento State. He's a kid that had great accolades at San Ysidro High School, but has bounced around the place. He's like a soldier of fortune, and he's had all these problems off the court. Mikey Williams is going to Sacramento State. Hell, that's a far cry from being at Memphis State, where he thought he was going to play for Penny Hardaway. So, John, go ahead. A lot of topics there. Don't turn the ball over.
Don't turn it over. I mean, can you imagine if you're Tyrese Halliburton, how embarrassing that must be?
You think?
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of, Coach Prime is probably going to be meddling in his son's affairs. And I mean, it's just the whole thing. It's like helicopter parents travel all the way up the ranks, all the way up into the professional with the NBA. I'm very intrigued by this whole Sacramento State thing. I mean, I think it's cool that they're trying really hard to be relevant, and you get Mike Bibby, who wasn't he did he play or coach at the Kings?
He played for the Sacramento Kings, star guard.
Yeah, exactly. So he's legit. And, Shaquille O'Neal, by the way, his son's transferred there, but I read something that Shaq himself was going to be the general manager.
Yeah, he's going to be like a GM consultant with NIL.
But just a ceremonial position, right?
I think so. He's not moving to Sacramento, no. But he's going to have some input. And Bibby's calling on all of his NBA friends to help him make Sacramento State special out in front of people. It's going to be a long road. They have a young president at Sac State. He's 43 years of age. He's a Sacramento State graduate. He's the one that's pushing his whole agenda. They're trying to get into the Pac-12. That's not going to happen. They're going to probably wind up maybe in the Mountain West Conference in maybe 3 or 4 years, but they're trying to fundraise. They want to build a football stadium for the program. They've applied for a waiver to leave the Big Sky with 1AA and become an independent. Now, they're not going to be Notre Dame. But anyhow.
Maybe BYU.
Maybe, but that's not going to happen in 15 minutes. So
no.
They're trying a lot of aggressive things with a lot of coaches, et cetera. So we'll just see where it goes. But it is interesting that they're going to try to get this basketball thing up and running because there's basketball players in every street corner. And Mike Bibby's trying to use his influence with a lot of different people. So Shaq's older son goes, and now Mikey Williams, who just has accomplished nothing except get in trouble, he's going to hit the reset button. Maybe he goes there and actually plays there, stays healthy, stays out of trouble, and can make something of himself because his career and his life, his credibility has kind of gone off the.
Well, he was busted on gun charges, wasn't he?
Yeah, felony firing shots at people at a party at his house.
So did he get off on that?
Well, they plea bargained down. He did wind up with a felony, wound up with some type of plea bargain suspension, no prison time. Had to go through a year's worth of counseling, et cetera. He's got to stay out of trouble. Period, exclamation point.
Yeah, well, hopefully he can do it. And by the way, just an aside, like 3 or so years ago, I drove up to Sacramento State because my UCSD Tritons, when they first went D1, I was all excited, and I road tripped up to Sacramento to watch them play. That gymnasium at Sac State is like the gymnasium at Poway High School. They got the pull-out bleachers and the whole thing. And so I'm interested to see what they're going to do from a facilities point of view if they want to be big time.
Well, they're going to try to build a 13,000 seat football stadium first and then go from there. Okay. Feel free, jump on board if any of those topics of interest to you. Fans forum chat box is open for business. Season is about to close in hockey.
Yeah, and the Kings are in a tough spot right now.
Oh, Kings play Edmonton tonight. Kings are in terrible trouble. This may cost their coach the job, Jim Hillier. We were talking about how hot the Kings were at the end of the season. And they get into this series with Edmonton, and they have them by the throat. They lead the series 2-0. They have now lost 3 in a row. And Hillier's made so many tactical mistakes. This is just not about the goaltender getting bombarded, because I will say this: the goaltending that they have gotten has been absolutely astounding. But at the end of the day, they've not done a good job. He shortened his bench. He sat his third and fourth lines at the end of games. What he had out there, the Kopitars of the world, they were gassed. He shortened his defensive pairs. He only used 4 defensemen, not all 6 in a rotation. They were gassed. He called for an instant replay challenge on goaltender interference. He took a timeout. And in the playoffs, if you take a timeout and you lose the challenge, you get a penalty. And Edmonton scored 2 goals in 10 seconds after Hillier's challenge failed. Oof. He's made so many tactical mistakes. And then here we are at the end of the day. His goaltender, Darcy Kemper, is just getting bombarded. They've allowed 93 shots in the last 2 games. 93. I spent a whole lifetime broadcasting hockey. I've never seen 93 shots in back-to-back games. That's what Edmonton has done. Edmonton is just rolling. And now they got to go into the Northlands, and they got to play in Edmonton tonight. This season might be over for the Kings by 10 o'clock tonight. Hillier might lose his job because they've had so many first-round exits. This will be the 4th year in a row they don't get through the first round. Hillier's been there as coach. It's a big issue. The Ducks, Anaheim's begun the interview process. Really interesting guy. First interview, Joel Kenville, great player in the NHL, longtime coach, St. Louis Blues, Blackhawks, Florida. Been out of hockey 2 years. He was suspended by the NHL because of a sexual assault case involving an assistant coach while he was with the Blackhawks that he became aware of and did nothing about. It happened during the course of the playoffs. It ended up in a big lawsuit involving a former minor league player who sued the club and won. Kenville wound up getting a 2-year suspension because of his inaction of taking action when the story kind of first broke. Anyhow, Kenville has interviewed for the Ducks job, a really good hockey coach, and he's had a tough set of circumstances. That logo, that Vancouver Canuck logo with the whale, is that what you call it?
Yeah, I
the
think
orca?
So. Yeah, an orca. That's
it.
it.
Actually, that looks like the letter C.
Yeah.
Stands for chaos.
Ah.
Vancouver let Rick Tocchet go as head coach. A year ago this week, you and I are talking Canucks, Cinderella story team in the NHL, got to the NHL Western Conference Finals. They let him go. They had all kinds of internal problems this year. They had to trade one of their captains because he was involved in a terrible personality clash with one of their Swedish players. Their Swedish players making $11.5 million a year and doesn't show up to play, scores 15 goals this year. Wreckage of injury, especially the goaltender Thatcher Demko. Rick Tocchet's contract was up. They offered him extension. He decided not to accept it. He's on the street as a free agent. Tocchet was really universally liked. He's a former player who knows how to push hot buttons of players to get them to respond. He did a hell of a job, but they had a mess of injuries, and they traded JT Miller. Prior to that, they traded one of their other top players. They're going to lose their 40-goal scorer, Brock Besser, who's a free agent this year. C, not for Canucks. C, chaos. That's just really a bad situation. The last one is about USA Hockey. We don't talk much college hockey here. We did it a couple of weeks ago when Western Michigan won the NCAA Frozen Four NCAA tournament. Well, new rule goes into effect effective this summer, going towards next fall, next hockey season. where NCAA schools can recruit players who played in the Canadian Junior Leagues. There's 3 leagues. There's Ontario Hockey League, Quebec Junior League, and the Western Hockey League. For years, NCAA said, no, you can't take Canadian kids because they were paid. They were paid to play for the Toronto Marlboros or the Quebec Remparts or the Portland Winterhawks. They got a stipend, a cost of living stipend. In essence, they were, quote, pros. Well, obviously, NIL has changed everything. So they put into, because of the lawsuit, they opened the window that now NCAA schools, the Cornells and the Boston Universities, whomever, can recruit kids that are playing in the Canadian Junior League. It's going to open up the window for Canadian clubs to come here. All of a sudden, USA Hockey says, wait a minute, you're going to allow this. You're going to give scholarships and NIL money to all these Canadian kids. What are you going to do to the American high school kid and the American player, the college kid here? They're going to be out of a roster spot. They're going to be out of jobs. And they said, we want a cap. So USA Hockey this week filed paperwork imploring, and maybe it's going to wind up in a lawsuit too, imploring the NCAA, all right, you're going to allow the players from the Canadian Junior Leagues to come in and the players from Sweden and Finland and Scandinavia to come? We need you to cap how many each school can have. I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if that's foul, but that's what's going on because they're trying to protect the chance that my kid can play at Notre Dame and wouldn't lose his position because all of a sudden Notre Dame's going to bring in 8 kids to play on defense or play in goal from the Canadian Junior Leagues. This rule opens it up for players. This rule could kill Canadian junior hockey if they start sucking all these kids across the border and giving them all scholarships, because the Canadian junior ranks has been the lifeblood of the NHL draft for decades upon decades upon decades. So, okay, John, go ahead. Your turn. Talk about the Kings. Talk about the chaos that is the Canucks. I want to talk USA Hockey. The floor is yours, and don't turn the puck over.
The USA Hockey story just reminds me of a similar debate, with immigration and H-1B visas and how many, we want to save jobs for Americans and all that. Maybe they need to build a wall along the northern border too to keep the Canadians out of America. But I do want to talk about the Kings. Going into the playoffs, we were talking about how they were red hot playing at home.
31-6-4.
Well, what the hell happened?
They were up 2-0, and they have not been able to put Edmonton away, and they let Edmonton back into it. And Edmonton has just dominated on the offensive side of the puck in the last 3 victories. I mean, he fired 93 shots on goal in 2 games. And the Kings players, they look gassed. And that goes back to Hillier not electing to continue to rotate his 4 lines and 3 pairs of defensemen and go in 2 lines against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I think I've never seen a tactical failure like this. I email with a whole bunch of hockey coaches and people, and I just asked, is Hillier's job in jeopardy? And I've had retired hockey executives say, yeah, he's going to lose his job if they lose the series. I don't see how they come back. I mean, Edmonton is playing with such confidence right now, and Edmonton's doing it with their backup goaltender. They benched Stuart Skinner, who gave up 11 goals in 2 games. They sat him down, and they got Calvin Pickard, a journeyman minor leaguer, that's kind of backstopping him, and he's not looking at a ton of rubber. So this is what Hillier did. He's self-destructed, I think.
Doesn't it seem similar to what J.J. Redick did in the 4th quarter, of the last game against the Timberwolves, where he didn't really play his bench, He just kind of stuck with his starters, and they ended up, getting tired, and then they just melted in the last quarter.
Yeah, well, you're talking about game 4. He played 5 guys the entire 4th quarter, and they obviously got beat.
Yeah.
And then he comes back last night, and he doesn't play his center for the whole. He sits there. Jackson Hayes sat there next to him for the entire game, and he had announced before the game he's not playing. Well, it's the end of his career. I wouldn't freaking come back and play for that guy.
No.
But, yeah, Jim, maybe it's something to do with the air in Los Angeles. I don't know.
The crypto.com arena.
Yeah, so that's too bad because Hillier had done a good job, and all of a sudden he's just lost his ability to make the right decision at crunch time. Yes, the players have to do it, but you got to give the players the opportunity to do it, and you can't keep sending Kopitar's line out there every 3 minutes because there's no rest time. You got 4 lines, rotate them.
Yeah, exactly.
Just absolutely stunning. Hey, you're a hockey fan. Feel free. Jump on board. You want to cross-check somebody? That's okay. We'll allow that today. We'll look the other way. Last set of topics on the table. Little late-breaking stories here, John.
Yeah, on the high-speed sports wire, Kentucky Derby.
Oh, big weekend ahead of us. Kentucky Derby, Run for the Roses, field of 20 on Saturday afternoon. I think the race goes off just before 7 o'clock West Coast time. And journalism, that's the horse's name. Journalism is the heavy favorite. It's going to start right in the middle. I think post position 8 in the 20-horse field. Horse is unbeaten since last year. Has won 4 in a row and has won at Santa Anita. I think it's a very, very good race. We'll see if there's some upsets along the way. Sandman might be the second best. Citizen Bull, which is a Bob Baffert horse, also one to keep an eye on. And speaking of Bob Baffert, his 3-year suspension is over. This is the first time since 2021 Baffert has been allowed on the grounds at Churchill Downs to put his horses in the Kentucky Derby. This, of course, came in the aftermath of the positive drug test and then the terrible death of the 2021 Kentucky Derby winner. Was it Mystic Pride? I think it was. So Baffert's back. This is going to be a phenomenal race. And like I say, a field of 20. It's a traffic jam. Man, those horses that start on the inside, there is so much traffic because everybody comes out of the gates and everybody funnels down in along the rail, and the traffic is just ungodly in terms of who's going to get the lead. And you don't want the ones starting on the pole inside to burn all their speed to try to get out front in the long race. But the Derby comes up, so that is going to be fun. Second topic on the table. This involves Formula One. They're here in the States this weekend. Formula One, Miami Grand Prix. And they have devised this track. This has really become an event. This has become almost like Monaco, racing through the streets of Miami, palm trees and everything. It's really
nice.
kind of cool. And, you know, the big story there is obviously Max Verstappen. Am I happy? Am I unhappy with Team Red Bull? How am I going to drive? How's my car going to handle this week? Ferrari with Sir Lewis Hamilton doesn't know from one week to the next how his car is going to be set up and operate. He's had a really strange start. We may have a new superstar from Argentina. His name is Oscar Piastri. He has won the last 2 F1 races and has held off and fought through a lot of adversity to hold off the challenges. And we got Lando Norris, who's had crashes and just suddenly is just not finishing up front. A lot of problems with him. So Miami Grand Prix is really kind of cool. And the last topic, this is so neat. And we've talked soccer. And I wish somebody out there would join us on Fans Forum and talk soccer. Talking about Wrexham. Wrexham was a lower division soccer club in Wales, south of England. They were bought by American ownership by Hollywood guy Ryan
Reynolds.
Mm-hmm. They have taken it from the lowest division possible, and they have 3 years in a row they've been elevated. They next year will play in the Championship League. The Championship League is like the AAA of soccer. It's right below the English Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
So Wrexham, because of what they call promotion relegation, Wrexham's had 3 unbelievable years in a row. They keep getting promoted to the next division up. So they're going to play in the Championship League, and if they do well next year, that puts them instead to be possibly promoted to the English Premier League. And the volume of money that is immediately yours if your team gets promoted to the EPL is phenomenal. It's like $130 million in TV contracts, and it's $100 million or $120 million in shared marketing revenue. It's phenomenal if you're in the EPL. Now, if you get deleted, you lose all that money. But Wrexham has gone from the lowest echelon in Wales. Wales is like the size of Rhode Island.
Yeah,
and there is a successful, and it's unbelievable what they've been able to accomplish. It's the first time they've been playing soccer since before you were born, dating back to 1888. First time since 1888, a club has been promoted 3 years in a row. And these guys are knocking at the door of the English Premier League. So Wrexham, and they had the TV series on Netflix, which is where they kind of gained their popularity. And this doggone thing has taken off. So it's a fascinating story. So, John, you want to talk about Baffert? Talk about F1? Talk about Wrexham.
Well, I'll be watching the Kentucky Derby. That's the one must-see horse race. And to your point, 20 at the gate and the way they funnel into that first turn, yeah, it is a traffic jam. But this whole Wrexham thing, Ryan Reynolds is a really special guy. I mean, granted, he's an actor and he's a good-looking Hollywood guy, but what he has done in the business world, have you followed this at all? So he was one of the early investors in Aviation Gin, and that blew up, some alcohol distillery. Then he was owned, I think it was called Mint Mobile, kind of a inexpensive mobile telephone plan. He ended up selling that to T-Mobile, made $1 gazillion. I mean, this guy just is kind of magic, Midas touch. And imagine if he takes Wrexham, and imagine if they got all the way to the Premier League. I mean, imagine the asset value of his ownership stake in that franchise. I mean, this guy, he's a billionaire, and doesn't even count when he's done in Hollywood. Yeah. It's just as an investor.
A creative genius. Just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he is. And he's witty, and he brings a lot of his personality into these businesses, and he kind of drives a lot of their marketing and their social media campaigns, and he just knows what buttons to push. So I think this is just a wonderful story, and let's just, go Wrexham.
Yeah, that's cool. I've never been to Wales. That's still on my checklist. I traveled abroad. I took 6 international vacations in a row prior to COVID. And Wales, as small as it is, off the edge of Ireland and England, that's still on my want-to-do list. Haven't gotten there yet. Okay, those are topics on the table. Did we do our job? Hell yes, we do sports talk the way it should be done. We want you to do yours now. I want you to pile in here. Fans Forum chat box is open. Pick any of the topics you want. Join us here. This podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. What I'd recommend, just go to the website, dixieline.com. See all the things they have to offer, from materials to tools, etc. dixieline.com. You think there's a few people have a few opinions about what we just talked about?
There's a lot of good stuff in here. And then in the social media stuff, which we hope to get to, there's a lot of SHEDEUR Sanders stuff in there.
Go ahead.
It's good. So let's go here. Callan will kick it off for us. He goes, afternoon, gents. Saw which team is bound to have heads roll after their first round exit? Milwaukee or the Flake? I mean, the Flake show. I mean, the Lakers.
Lakers are not firing anybody. They just gave Pelinka a 5-year contract extension, or I should say 3-year extension on top of what was left. And JJ Redick is there. I'll be intrigued to see how they're going to be able to manipulate their way to go get bigs, because that's what they need. They don't have a lot of cap space. LeBron's got a $51 million extension. He's going to make a decision on shortly. He stays. Luka is up for a max extension. Reeves has already got his extension. So there's not a ton of cap space to go get a marquee free agent out there. And they're kind of negligible in terms of how many number 1 picks they have out there to be able to go use down roads. And who they got anybody wants in terms of a trade, unless you can trade Rui Hachimura. Don't think they're going to trade Reeves. I don't think Kinect's got much market value right now. So I just don't know how they're going to go fix what they need, which is they need bigs, unless they find role players, and you can do that. What was the guy from Oklahoma City? Isaiah Hartenstein? Tough guy, big. He's developed a really good player. They got to find somebody like that to take up space in the paint and make something happen that they can afford and get and develop. The guy they had is playing for the Clippers tonight. Zubac.
Oh yeah.
He's turned out to be a really fine center. Just think about that. If he had been there, but he's not. So that's where we are.
Well, thinking about a big man that used to be at OKC is that Adams guy,
Yeah, but he's had knee injury after knee injury. I just don't know.
But he's good when he's on the court. I mean, he's a hell of a player. You talk about first round exits. I think the Kings coach is the one that's in the most trouble, right?
Yes.
If they get booted in this first round.
That's what the NHL people telling me. And I think the guy's done a nice job there, and Rob Blake's given a lot of players. But geez, when you're up 2-0 on Edmonton, you got to find a way to win and close these suckers out, and they didn't. And now they're down 3-2, and they got to go play the Oil up there. That's impossible. Okay, next one.
Okay, talk Dodgers here with Eric. He goes, is Blake Snell a surprise to anyone? Either injured or just doesn't want to tax himself for meaningless games. Seems the injuries and his load management are all just the same.
Well, I posed this question last week. I'm not sure Dodger fan is real happy with me, but did you need to investigate why the first halves of his seasons have been so miserable? Now he's got apparently a significant injury with the shoulder impingement. And at the end of the day, what is his training regimen like? And because his first half ERA is miserable. It's like 4.38, second half ERA is 2.38. He's getting a full year's salary for a half year's of work of quality starts. Did anybody investigate why this is the way it is? Does he need to investigate and do something really different to be ready to start the season? So he's out. The glasnow thing is complicated. As I told John last week, we're playing now. And there's no long off period of time. You can't fix a guy's mechanics when you're supposed to give him the ball every fourth or fifth day, unless you shut him down for a month. And maybe they're going to have to do that with Glasnow. And if you're going to, you'll send him back to Arizona to their spring training camp, and you will work to refine his mechanics. And he's got to be able to repeat it. But you can't do that while he's pitching in the regular rotation at max effort. So Dodgers right now, they got two glitches, John and I have joked extensively about, the Dodgers have all these extra pitchers and look at what they've developed at Oklahoma City and all that. But said they got three more guys still rehabbing, including Ohtani, who are not ready to pitch. And they got three other young guys that have been up and down, that gotten banged around, Bobby Miller and Landon Knack, and they're back in AAA because they haven't been very consistent with the show. So suddenly, you're shaking your head like you agree with me. I'm not going to say the Dodgers have a catastrophic problem in pitching, but the Dodgers suddenly don't have enough starting pitching with answers as to how to fix it.
Yeah, who are some of those other young guys? I mean, there was Sheehan and Grove.
Those guys all had surgery, and they're still on the disabled list. In some of those cases, those guys are gone for the whole year. Sheehan is of the young ones, is likely back sometime in July, but he's not doing rehab in terms of pitching in games yet. So no, we laughed. You laughed at me. You said 23 names we had on the board that one time.
I remember that. I took up the whole screen.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, a lot of those guys were in recovery or about to begin rehab, and that they all had forearms or shoulders. It takes a long time to come back. So I'm not saying the Dodgers have a catastrophic problem, but the Dodgers right now don't have a lot of depth in that pitching, considering all the names they had.
Blake Snell needs like an ergonomic chair when he's doing his video game work, because he likes his video games. But it is weird, the whole Snell thing in the first half, which we've talked about numerous times. I like Blake Snell. I think he's a good dude. I don't think he's the kind of guy that would kind of do a little scam move.
No, I don't think it's a scam, but what's your regimen? What are you doing?
Well, yeah. And then I think the Dodgers, they're probably just slow walking this whole thing because they know they got they still have 40 games left in the season. There's no rush on any of this. And, as long as we're at 500 or a little bit above going into the All-Star break, everything's fine.
Okay. He's copping out on me here on this one. Okay. Thanks, Eric. Join us again. Go ahead, John.
Okay. This is a two-parter from Angel. And he goes, Bill Belichick went from a well-respected NFL coach to a laughingstock. It's not even funny. And he says, it feels more like a plot for Necessary Roughness sequel than an actual college football team.
I just don't understand why you would expose yourself to this. Not that I agree with him being condescending in the way he always was at New England. Like I said, I got along with him okay, and he was cooperative in the 4 or 5 interviews I did with him. But I didn't have to deal with that crap day in, day out. And I guess it would get really old. He created, I think, a lot of enemies in the NFL, which is why he didn't get a job again. That plus all his player personnel decisions did not pan out.
Who were his enemies?
Obviously, some owners or other coaches.
But he's still close with Kraft. They still have a good relationship.
No.
No. That whole thing went to hell?
Yes. Hell in a handbasket.
Well, I knew that, it was time to move on from Belichick, but I still thought that they were.
The storyline is that Atlanta is the only team that talked to Belichick, and Kraft told Atlanta who Belichick was. And that was the end of that. And he never got another interview from anybody. With all the jobs are open this past year, I would have sworn Raiders, Jerry Jones, back when we were talking about who's available And as these jobs are opening right at the end of the season, I would have thought that he would have wound up with one of these jobs, and he never talked to Jerry Jones, never got an interview. So I think there's a reputation has preceded him, his methodology, way of business, as great as it was in the Brady era, it really ended up badly in New England. And prior to that, when he was in Cleveland, that was a freaking disaster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Brady had a lot to do with the great success that Belichick had, but
yeah, his record post Brady was like under 500.
It was 36-48, or New England was 36-48 in the years since Brady retired. Not good. So this whole North Carolina thing, we'll be watching what's going on down Tobacco Road. This is going
to be awesome.
Amazing.
Okay, let's go here to Hector. And he goes, Lee, stop being so hard on the hoodie and his girlfriend. We all can't find a diamond in the coal mines of West Virginia like you.
Oh, my goodness. You know, she was an airline stewardess, I guess. That's where they met on a flight to Palm Beach. So she's the CEO of Belichick Media. That's, I don't know, does the term gold digger, is that unfair for me to mention?
No, it's absolutely relevant. Yeah. Okay, well, here, just a couple of shout outs from some good fans of yours. Here's from Pedro, and he goes, love your show, Hacksaw and John. Always see your show down here in Guadalajara, Mexico. Great job.
Pedro, I need you to tell everybody on your Rolodex.
It's not a Rolodex.
Whatever the hell you call it. Address book.
Yeah, your contact list.
Contact list.
Yeah, there you go. And then just to follow up, we have a comment here from Darth. And he goes, greetings from Boise, home of the blue turf.
Yay. What a great program. Great athletic program. And they've been able to keep it at a high level. And, you know, Boise is to that level of football what Gonzaga became to that level of basketball. It's just amazing. And they're both up there in the Pacific Northwest. Boise's a cool city. It's old. It's kind of got a taste of old West to it. That stadium is cool. I almost went there to work. I almost got hired to be the voice of the Boise State Broncos right at the end of the run, but there's too many other things going on in my career at that point that we just never quite got around to getting the deal done. But I spent 2 days up there. I had a good time. I interviewed and met with a whole bunch of people, and this is just as they were growing the thing in football. I'd probably still be up there. You'd be living in Boise doing a podcast with me.
I probably would. You know what's funny, though, is you got fans in Guadalajara and Boise.
Is that kind of like Baja to the Canadian Rockies?
That's what I was going to say. Yes. Exactly.
And we got the old Canada network, too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all good. All right. So let's keep rolling here. And who do we want to jump in on board? And let's go here to Greg. And he says, hey, Lee and John, what do you think USC will finish in the Big Ten this year? Top 3?
I'll tell you, it's really hard. It's really hard to determine rosters. I mean, these guys are finishing up spring football, and they got so many strangers and so many new guys are just showing up. I mean, the coaching challenge, I think, for Lincoln Riley, and even more so for Deshaun Foster with all the defections, et cetera. I should know how you put a team together. You know, same thing here at San Diego State with Sean Lewis is having to go through. It's just really challenging because you got so many new pieces because they lost virtually their entire offensive line. They lost their running backs. Wide receivers, there's so many new pieces at USC. So to me, it's a little bit early just to determine. I have to see if there's any more late names that show up in the spring transfer portal.
Well, I mean, Ohio State and Michigan are going to still be 1-2 or 2-1, right? I mean, so who's typically the third best football team in the Big Ten? Sometimes it's Wisconsin, sometimes it's Iowa.
Yeah, for 1 year it was Indiana,
but
that thing has changed so much. But Ohio State, Michigan obviously kind of own the whole thing. You know, somebody asked me, I get stopped by people everywhere, you know, just buying groceries and
Hacksaw in the wild.
Yeah. No, in the wild. This was at the deli. And the guy said, how come there were so many Big Ten and SEC players taken to the top of the first round of the draft? Well, there's 26 to 32, I think was the number, came from the Big Ten of the SEC. Why? They got all the NIL money. They go get any player they want.
Right.
And that's why they now suddenly are dominating college football is they got the NIL wealth. But the story is Ohio State had $30 million to spend on football players last year.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I guess ASHTON JEANTY is one of the 6 that wasn't in the Big Ten SEC in the first round.
Yeah. And he turned down offers to go to – he could have gone anywhere and probably written his own ticket in the Big 12. He elected to stay at Boise.
Yeah, who else? It was like the receiver from Arizona was not one of those in those 2 conferences. Yeah, and a few others.
Yeah.
Interesting.
26 of 32, I believe, was the number. So that meant there were only 6 kids that were not Big Ten or SEC guys.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Crazy. Well, imagine if they split off and made their own league. They're talking about that.
Well,
still.
talking about it hasn't happened. Nobody seems to want to do that because it would bust up a bunch of other things.
Okay, let's go here to Carlos. And he says, hey, Lakers, Lee, you were right. Where do they go from here? They need to get younger and more athletic. Can we trade Giannis? Not sure. Trade for Giannis. Is LeBron James would welcome a young movement? Oh, well.
Well, how are you going to add Giannis when you got a salary cap? That's a big issue. I don't know that Milwaukee wants to trade Giannis. Maybe Milwaukee gets into its own rebuild mode. I guess you can go find young bigs that you can develop, but you have to be patient with them. And you know, Pelinka has drafted a lot of guys. I don't see anybody that's made a difference. Even Dalton Connect, who they seem to like in spurts of time, and he didn't get off the bench at all during the postseason. So, and they got 3 guys making all their money. So I'll be intrigued to see where they're going to go to get a big. And I guess you can find them. You got to open every cupboard there is down the hallway to see if you can find somebody that you think you can grow and make a legitimate role-playing big center. But they got to get better in the bigs. And you were right, Carlos. I told you so. The day they made this trade, John said, you're being awful harsh on them. I mean, they got Luka. I said, who the hell is going to play in the paint? Who's going to play defense? Who's going to be a rim protector? And what did Minnesota do to them? They mugged them.
Well, let's make a list of all the Lakers in the last 5 or 6 years that have been traded away. I mean, there's like Caldwell Pope, and you talk about Zubac, Julius Randle.
Yeah, Randle was gone. They didn't give him enough time. He's developed into a pretty gritty player. Kyle Kuzma was really popular. He wanted to stay here, but he didn't play really well. But he was not a cornerstone. He was one of the good players, but he went to Washington in multiple deals. And it'd take me forever to go back and have to redo the list. But I wrote columns about this maybe a year ago about Pelinka's transactions, and he brought in 33 players in 4 years or something to try to find complementary pieces. It didn't really work.
But I mean, imagine if they had Julius Randle. I mean, that could make a huge difference. But Randle is more of a 4, isn't he? Yeah. He's not really a center.
No, he's not a center at all. But he just beats your brains out. That's the way he plays.
He's just a big dude.
Yeah, physical. Yeah. And he's grown into that role. He was not that when he came from, where did he come from? North Carolina? From the ACC, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Here's another Laker comment. This is from Douglas. He goes, Lakers are the Steelers of the NBA and vice versa. That's interesting.
Well, I don't know if I could say that. I mean, the Steelers are pretty gritty. The Steelers win. Lakers haven't won in a while. One championship in 9 years since LeBron got here. The banners up there are kind of dusty now. I mean, they haven't put any good banners up there in a long time. So it's just.
Well, how many championships have the Steelers had in the last 9 years? No, I don't think any either.
Yeah. Oh, so he's probably making reference. Steelers have let the world down too.
Well, yeah, because they've had moments of greatness.
Yeah.
Moments of their own.
Well, they did win with Roethlisberger.
Yeah, they had dynasties of their own. And then when they fall off, at least they don't fall to the bottom of the list. They're usually sort of mediocre for a while.
I wrote a column this morning. You should read my one man's opinion column on my website. Just go check it out. Because the Lakers once upon a time were Jerry West and Gail Goodrich and Elgin Baylor and Wilt. And the Lakers were obviously Kareem and Magic and Showtime. And what are the Lakers now? Gee, we hope we can be a play-in team. Or hey, we'll be the 7th seed. Oh my God, we got knocked out again. We got mugged by Minnesota. That's who the Lakers have been. Lakers have become mediocrity, despite having Luka and LeBron. So, I'll tell you, the summer's going to be fascinating to see what they can do to be able to go get a big with some credibility to play at the other end of the floor. Interesting.
Well, they were a 3 seed, but they were like, what, 1 game away from being a 7th seed, the way that whole thing was. So the Lakers seeding is sort of a false reality.
Yeah, there wasn't a hell of a lot between 3 and 8.
Yeah.
I concur. Okay, move on. Let's do a couple more here.
Okay, we'll go to John. This is a long one. I don't know if I'm going to read it all, but he's excited about the Caps.
Rightfully so.
Yeah,
what Ovi did in those guys. Logan Thompson stood on his head. That goaltender, holy cow. He was getting hit by shots he never saw, and he was still making saves along the way. So It's going to be interesting. And the Eastern Conference is so weird right now because Florida has mugged Tampa and knocking them out. And then obviously you got Washington is there. Toronto has to prove that they're not going to choke this damn thing away again. They got to go to Ottawa. They've let Ottawa back in the series. There's no bloody way that Toronto should be struggling with the Ottawa Senators, but they are. And then obviously, as he alludes to, the Kachuk family, who seems to be feuding with everybody on the ice all the time. So, but hey, the Caps, the Caps had the best record in the East for a reason. Depth. And they got Ovechkin. And this goaltender has come out of nowhere. The story on Logan Thompson was just a kid that played junior hockey that was kind of bounced around, was in the East Coast Hockey League and got to the American League, and then it was a throw-in and a trade, and somebody got hurt in Washington. He had to be the starter, and wow, pretty good.
Are you still sticking with your original prediction, Jets, Maple Leafs in the final?
Yeah, but Winnipeg's got its hands full. They've really scuffled against St. Louis, though they're up 3-2. But now they got to go back to St. Louis, see if they can win this thing in Game 6. Otherwise, it goes back for whiteout Game 7 in Winnipeg.
Okay, let's keep going here. One of your old friends online, Jim Bloom. He goes, keep on going, Hacksaw. Jim Bloom, San Diego State, 83.
Yay. Aztecs want them to do well in football. It is a real struggle. It is so hard to understand where they are and why they're not making progress. And I look at where they are right now compared to where they were just a couple of years ago in the midst of the Brady Hoke, Rocky Long era. Damn, that was really good product. Right now, they are scuffling really badly. And the community's turned its back on them. I mean, Jim, it's shocking to me that having lost our NFL franchise, that San Diego State was not able to get the deposed Charger fans to put their arms around Aztec football. And Aztec football with Rocky and Brady was really good. Yeah, it was in the Mountain West. I understand that stigma. But Jesus, to have 5,900 season tickets now in a shiny new stadium when you used to have 15,900 and there's no electricity, nobody cares. That's in a football city. That shocks me, no?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, the Aztec alumni need to come out. I mean, they need to support their team. But I want to talk a moment here. Jim Bloom, wasn't he a writer for the Union Tribune?
No.
Was that a different Bloom?
Must be.
Because I don't know, just
you're mistaken with a baseball beat writer, Barry Bloom.
Ah, okay, that's who it was.
Nice guy who lives in Arizona. Still, he works for Sportico website and has written baseball economics forever and ever.
Ah, okay, that's the name. Okay, let's go here to Gregory. And he goes, the NHL dropped the ball with a lack of additional discipline in last night's game in Winnipeg. B. Shen should have gotten a 4-game suspension for running Mark S.
Well, Sheffley got hurt. Now, I went back and looked at the hit. I've seen like 3 different angles. It was a terrible jolt, but it was not a blow to the head intentionally. It was a terrible head-on collision. It's almost like shoulder to shoulder, and Sheffley's head kind of flipped back. He played some more shifts, but again, you can have a concussion that might not show up for a little bit of time. So big setback there. Obviously, Winnipeg's coach was really upset. I mean, it was a bang play. It happened so quickly. But Sheffley put his head down. He was looking down when he got clipped, but there was not a forearm to the head. It wasn't a stick. We've seen some of that crap there in the playoffs. So felt bad. He's a fine player, and obviously it's a big blow if he's going to be out for an extended period. But he's definitely not playing in Game 6, and maybe he doesn't even play in Game 7.
Loving all the hockey talk. Let's get another one in here. Go to Gary. Hey, Kings head coach Jim Hiller should be fired if the Kings don't come back and win the series. Hiller made several crucial mistakes in games 3 and 4. Those mistakes are unforgivable.
It's hard for me. I watched closely, and the first controversial decision they made was when they challenged the Evander Kane goal. And it was a complicated play because there were so many guys in around that goaltender. And was Kemper interfered with? Did Kane kick the puck with his skate? Did Kane interfere with the goaltender himself? I mean, it was so hard because there were so many bodies in the crease as Kemper was getting knocked down. But the rule is if you challenge, in the playoffs and you don't win the challenge, you take a 2-minute penalty. So not only did they get the goal with Kane, which stood after the replay review, they go on the power play and they score 10 seconds later. And the series has not been the same since. And then all the tactical moves with the players. I don't know where the assistant coaches are. Why is somebody not standing up and brainstorming with him and playing devil's advocate with, you've got to roll 3 lines or you've got to roll 4 lines. I know that Edmonton, they were going every other line. They were running McDavid and Draisaitl out there. But those are unique individuals and maybe physically can handle it. But the Kings look so gassed. And I broadcast hockey for a long time, Gary, and I've never seen a team give up 93 shots in 2 back-to-back games in the playoffs. So poor Kemper is just not getting an awful lot of help. So, yeah, Hillier's got a real problem here. If they get evicted from the playoffs tonight at Edmonton, he might lose his job. But Rob Blake's got to be going crazy because they really built something really good in LA in terms of team depth, et cetera, and a cross-section of older guys and younger guys. And, geez, this would be terrible if they lose, especially if you lose. You're up 2-0 and you lose to Edmonton.
Yeah, it'd be brutal. 4 years in a row.
Yep.
Okay, hockey 101 question here. What is the crease?
The crease is the blue area
in front of the goal
where the goaltender is. Evander Kane is not allowed to have his skates in the crease when the shot is fired. But there's contact.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a defenseman. You're standing on the edge of the crease. I'm trying to push you out. You're trying to push me back. So sometimes your skate does get in the crease, but you can't go in the crease and plant your ass there. They'll wave off the goal if that's the case. But there was such combat with so many bodies, and Evander Kane was on the edge of the crease. And it looked like his skate was in the crease, but did it go in the crease because he got pushed in there? And then they're looking and say, did he kick the puck when it was in the crease? Because you can't kick a puck towards a goal. Or did he kick it with a skate to put it on a stick, which appears he did, and then he hit it? Did he interfere with Kemper as Kemper was trying to get his glove down? It took forever. So complicated.
So it's just that little blue zone.
Yeah, but the blue zone is pretty big.
It's like in front of the goal, right?
Yeah.
Now, I've seen cases in watching hockey where there'll be like a mob scene in the crease, and there'll be like half the players, and they'll like overwhelm the goal and knock it off of its magnetic clinging points.
Yeah, and that's when you stop play. Once the goal is dislodged, the goal post, the net is dislodged from the post.
But I would imagine that's a strategy. We just throw bodies at the goal, and it's just like almost like the
but you can't
the push and with the Eagles, you just force the ball in force the puck in.
Yeah, but you can have penalties in the course of doing that. If you get Evander Kane trying to barrel his way through the goaltender to put the puck in, he can get a roughing call for hitting a goaltender interference. If a defenseman is trying to push the guy, you can get cross-check. You can get roughing as your defenseman trying to control Evander Kane in the crease.
Okay.
It is Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
All right, let's do a couple more here.
Okay, let's go to RAL, maybe the Royal Air Force guy here. Liverpool winning their 20th title, tying Man United and Wrexham. What a story.
Yeah, the Wrexham story is so cool. I've never seen, John's not invited me over on a Sunday yet. I haven't seen the Netflix package on Wrexham. I'd like to see one of those episodes. That's supposed to be really, really neat. And that's why this Wrexham ideology kind of took hold and everybody became a Wrexham fan.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
I like the whole relegation idea and promotions. Do they do that in any other sports?
No, strictly soccer.
I think it's a cool thing. I mean, imagine.
No, Pittsburgh Pirate fan be pissed that you'd say that.
Did you see the guy fall in the stadium?
I've seen the pictures of him being on the ground. He's still in critical condition.
He fell over the rail and landed in the warning track. I mean, it was gruesome.
Yep. He fell like 25 feet head first.
But you ever like being on the upper deck at Petco and like the way it's really steep and you're going up those stairs and you're like, oh my God, I could slip and fall and I could go, ass over tea kettle. And next thing I'm down in the box seats down at the field level.
Yeah. Sidlers don't want you down there. But yeah, it's really bad. It took forever because it took a long time for the emergency people to get out to the warning track to get him. And then they had to stabilize him. And then they had to, I don't know if he broke his neck or broke his back, but as of this morning, he was still in critical condition. And I don't know whether he leaned over and fell. I don't know whether he was drunk. I don't know if he got pushed, but I saw the upper deck where he fell. And holy cow.
Well, some people were saying that he tried to jump on the field
from that level.
Yeah, but he ended up getting his feet kind of got clipped
in the fence
by the barrier. And so that's why he ended up flopping and coming down crazy. So clearly he was drunk.
Oh.
Have you ever seen video shots of like an NFL games when they kick field goals and there's a guy that jumps out of the stadium and catches the ball in the tunnel there?
Yeah, same thing. Yankee Stadium, guys used to hit home runs into what that when I was a kid growing up was the bullpen, was in right center and left center. And guys that hit home runs in towards the bullpen, and these fans would stand up and jump out of their seats into the bullpen with a glove to catch the ball.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay, let's keep going here to social media. And there's a lot of good SHEDEUR Sanders comments. Here's one of them from Johnny Brown. He goes, okay, your opinions about this young man are irrelevant and highly predictable because you guys don't like the fact that his father took a low-rated NCAA school to a bowl game in just 2 years. Sometimes, just sometimes, be fair-minded. Ever since Dillon retaliated against a low-rated announcer that tried to destroy his career, you guys have unfairly judged him as you were trying to destroy this young man's career before he plays his first game.
Oh, Johnny. Just because I quoted what NFL scouts told me they saw in video, and they make their careers, that's all they do is study video for their draft picks. They're the ones that use the phrase junk offense. They're the ones that use the phrase, he has a tendency always to run to the left. They're the one that use the phrase, take out the bubble screens and the flare passes out in the flat, and he only completes 39% of his passes down the field. They're the ones to say, oh, Dillon did a great job recruiting an Olympic track team of wide receivers and Jimmy Horns and all those kids. They're the ones that made all the plays. It wasn't just SHEDEUR. And, the criticism that he holds the ball too long and the criticism that he doesn't have good pocket presence. And so there's a lot of things. At the end of the day, am I bagging on him? No, I'm just saying he conducted his business wrong. I was told by somebody who was affiliated with the Rams this morning that SHEDEUR turned off so many people who are decision makers, and that means coaches and coordinators in meetings, that he did this to himself. The way he acted, like it's an honor that I'm here talking to you. That's what I got from somebody from the Rams. And I got stuff from somebody with the Chargers, somebody with the Raiders, etc. So at the end of the day, I just don't think he's a complete quarterback, John, at this point. But he's got the opportunity, and he's going to work under a good guy. Kevin Stefanski is a very good developer of quarterbacks and an X and O's guy. But even Stefanski and his people didn't think much of him until the owner called down and said, we're taking him at the end of the 5th round. So they got 2 rookie quarterbacks. They got 4 quarterbacks in all, and they got a history of quarterback issues in Cleveland. So I'm not burying SHEDEUR. I'm telling you what the NFL people told me because I asked them, what did you see close up? Yes, no?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you've been pretty straight on it, but I like Coach Prime. I think he's fantastic. The way he rolled into Boulder and just transformed the Buffaloes and bringing all of his, the bling and he's a great follow. Coach Prime is a great follow on X. Just really good motivational stuff. But I saw a video clip of, I can't remember who was talking to Prime, and they were asking him, you're meddling in your son's affairs and, you're being like a helicopter dad and trying to tell your son where he should play or not play. And Dillon said, he goes, oh, damn right. I've been a pro in the NFL. I know what's going on and I can give my son guidance on what he needs to do and where to go. But he really made a point of it wasn't so much where he wanted SHEDEUR to play, but it's where he wanted SHEDEUR not to play. And then it made me think, like, what NFL teams do you think Prime is telling his kid, don't go there?
He doesn't have any say in it.
But what do you think? I mean, it's got to be like the Cardinals maybe. And, what franchises are like, don't want to touch him? Maybe the Chargers?
No. I mean, the Chargers got a great quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that he handled himself correctly. When you show up late at the combine for a meeting with executives late, when you stop a Zoom interview with a head coach and a coordinator because you want to take a cell phone call with one of the fellas? That's stupid.
It is. Let's listen. We have a comment here specifically on that. And let me see if I can find it here. And this is from Trey J. And he goes, I don't believe these coaches and scouts saying he was late for meetings. That's not even the way his father conducts his team at Colorado.
However, the general consensus was Shedeur lived an entitled life at Colorado. And everything was wrapped around Shedeur, the star quarterback. Not that way any longer. At the end of the day, let's give the kid the chance to see what this experience will be like under Stefanski in Cleveland through the OTAs. See how much. The biggest question to me now for Cleveland is how are they going to allot the time to work with two kid quarterbacks who they're trying to teach into a system and allot the time to Pickett, who's never been in the system. Flacco has. There's not enough hours in the day. Because, by the way, you're also trying to develop your offensive line. You're trying to develop young wide receivers. You're trying to implement a system to a bunch of new people. How are you going to do all that? It's not like you can be on the field 15 hours a day. It just doesn't work that way in the NFL any longer.
Man, are they doing Hard Knocks with the Browns? That'd be a fun one to watch.
Well, I don't think it's with the Browns, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would be. Okay, let's go here. This is another comment about Mel Kiper. This is from JCA for LA. Hey, I stopped taking Kiper seriously before the Rams and Raiders left LA. He's a clown, only interested in the greater glory of Mel Kiper. The NFL just serves as the whale he has attached himself to.
Yeah. We'll see if he stays part of this because he sure did stomp on a lot of feet during the course of his condemnation of everything about the NFL. To me, he sold his soul. I have no problem because talk show host, I've said some really strong ass things that people didn't agree with. That's okay. But I don't spend 3 hours of the draft just repeating and condemning. He did it through the whole course of the draft, which I thought was unfair to the storylines that were there. They never interviewed Cam Ward. How could they mistreat Cam Ward, the number one pick in the draft? It just kind of blew my mind. I think he stained his credibility. Is he a good guy? Yeah. Does he work really hard? Yeah, that's who he is. But this was so far over the top. And by the end, the other panelists on ESPN were starting to just get tired of the act.
Yeah, they were.
Give it up. That's where I stand.
My take on the whole thing is I thought that inside Mel Kiper's head, he must have felt threatened. It was like his ego was sort of, fragile.
Why would that be, though? He's got the job. He's been there forever and ever. He's the last of the big ones still there doing it.
But he's already got a protege on the table next to him that's like the next Mel Kiper, So he's feeling all of that. And I think, he just felt like he had to force himself to be relevant on that panel when he didn't need to do that.
So here's the question. We'll wrap up this podcast with this question. So which was the worst TV that you've seen? The hoodie and the babe, or Kiper selling his credibility out to Neon Dion?
Well, the hoodie and the babe is comedy as far as I'm concerned. Kiper is like, yeah, I feel the same thing as JCA. It's just like, I'm just kind of tired of Mel Kiper. So yeah, the whole NFL draft coverage I thought was great.
Oh, phenomenal.
I love the spectacle and all the things that Goodell and his whole staff put together there in Green Bay. It was great. But the Kiper thing was like a sideshow.
Way too much circus. I said this on Monday. I just think he took all the oxygen out of the tent by just going on and on and on about Sanders to a disservice to a lot of other kids. And this was their special time.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed. Granted, you might not agree with me. I know you don't agree with him in left field. Hope you have enjoyed this podcast. We're here Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. We cover a ton. We do sports talk the way it should be done. This podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. Go to Dixieline.com and just see all the things they have to offer. Help us. Tell all your friends in your contact list. I want you to give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating. That will help us enormously. What we've been able to do in 3 years here has just really been phenomenal. Thank you for being part of it. John, take a deep breath. Enjoy the weekend. Kentucky Derby, baseball, what's left of the NBA, NHL. We'll see you come Monday.
come on, Kings. I mean, you got to win tonight.
And this guy didn't even know what the difference was between a hockey puck and a burnt roll until I met him.
Yeah, I'm learning on the job here when it comes to hockey.
And thank you for being with us. Hope you enjoyed everything we try to do and bring your way Mondays and Thursdays. We'll see you come Monday with a bonus podcast on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.